this umbrella-like structure. And then the bark, if you cut it, the sap is red, and it was used as an antiseptic medicinal. Now, this is the flag of Oman, which is very similar to the United Emirates, but it has as the symbol the qajar, the knife. And this is the Sultan who is now the ruler of Oman, Qaboos bin Said. His name relates him to the Said family that is larger in this whole area, but he has been the ruler, absolute ruler of Oman since 1970, when he led a palace coup against his father, and his father pulled a gun on him and shot himself in the foot. Didn't get the son, but that Qaboos bin Said imprisoned his father and forced reforms. Now, this is curious because all these countries are very patriarchal and very, let's say, gender segregated in many ways. But Qaboos wanted women to have education and wanted them to vote. And this is not allowed in where we are right now. And so he had them join the assembly. These are scenes from Muscat. Some of the housing and places, and then there's a parliament, a very big parliament. Where the ship is, we'll be able to see it. But now the Omani women vote and are also ministers and are full participants in the business and society. So they're not like right over the border where they're not even allowed to drive. Well, this is Muscat, the capital of Oman. And it has a number of fortresses, and then it has up on the upper right-hand corner, you see this, it looks like a gigantic incense burner, which is the form of it, but it's actually, of course, a communications tower. And then the little town in the center, you can walk right on the dock, and it's contained in hills in the valley, so it's not a very extensive city like Dubai. And then the royal palace stretches out along the another side of the town, but these are the old fortresses that guarded it. They were attacked by the Portuguese, but the Omani repulsed them. At the time, the Navy of Oman had over 100 armed ships, and so that outnumbered and outgunned the Portuguese. Portuguese conquered a lot of other places like Hormuz and Iran, but the Omani are very proud that they were never a colony, and then they became sort of a protectorate under the British Empire, like many of the other areas here. This is Muscat at night. So there's a very small downtown for it. It's a very charming city. Has an old souk. Here's the Sultan's Palace, Central District, and the Zawawi Mosque. Again, it lives on royal patronage, but has not built skyscrapers. So he's much more conservative than the look of Dubai and Abu Dhabi. But he certainly likes his medals. And this is one of his many palaces. So during the Arab Spring, there was some protests to provide a constitutional monarchy, and he absolutely refused and rounded up anybody who complained about it, but it was not as cruel as what happened in Egypt. And the Omani in general are fairly happy people because they know little poverty. They don't have such a large population. They have oil, and they have now tourism since they opened up. And they also have a high level of education. So they're probably one of the luckier of the states in this part of the world. They're not overwhelmed by a population, especially like Egypt. And they have a lot of land, so this is the usual way to get around up and around. And of course, this is the great national sport of the whole area, horsemanship and falconeering. And the men are in business and the women keep home, but they are far more cooperative, or at least equally have similar rights, unlike some other parts of this area. So here's a gentleman with the qajar, the dagger, which is the symbol of the country, and he's guarding this gold. But you can buy, they're quite expensive. They're beautiful silver and gold work on them, but every man traditionally has to have one with them. And then the women get completely decked out in all this beautiful gold work. I don't know if you saw in the gold souk in Dubai, but also in Muscat, the jewelry work is quite fantastic, but it must be quite a bit to carry around all day. Again, these are special occasions, not going to work or just being home, but the elegance of the women is particularly evident. And then they have henna and other temporary tattooing like this. But on the other hand, they can vote, unlike Saudi Arabia. Here's just some of the traditional crafts outside of Muscat. There's a whole village that makes these pots going back for thousands of years. And then the rest of the country is very wild. So I'll show you just some of the coast here. It's rugged and unpopulated, much of it. So again, scuba divers come down here and they go out and explore what is otherwise untrammeled coastline and marine life. Now this is down on the south coast. It's near the city of Salalah. But in this computerization, you see how green the cliffs are. That's because the monsoon rain comes and it keeps them green, where right over it, it's all desert. So here's a wadi that fills up seasonally. And for them, that's where they go to vacation, from all the way from Dubai and Muscat. They go down there just to feel the humidity and the fog. They think fog is almost as much fun as snow, which they've never seen. Well, this is Salalah, which is not on our course. This is going right to Yemen and the Red Sea. But they built a major port there for shipping for the whole Middle East, sort of like the Dubai airport, one of the greater airports in the world. Now they have a ship center comparable and resorts down on that coast. Sultan Qaboos has very large palaces down there, but it's relatively unpopulated, and you have camels wandering around all over the street. So they get a parking place. But we'll see more of that. And I'm going to take you back up to actually near where we are. This is Busadam, which is the peninsula right of the Strait of Hormuz. I'm just going to finish here just showing you. This has been called the only fjord land in a desert, because you see the variegated coast and these mountains come down, and there's almost nobody lives around here except fishermen in tiny little villages. And you can get there by road, but I once came in a ship and went into the fjords of it. And it's not quite like Norway, but it's steep and very calm because it's all tranquil water. So fishermen go in there, and particularly smugglers go in there because it's right near Iran. And these little villages go fishing by day, and then they slip over to Iran to smuggle by night. But it's full of dolphins. It's one of the treats of going in there. Here are the smugglers coming back because if they get back before the sun sets, they don't have to pay any fines or taxes. So they're smuggling mostly electronics and clothing to and from Iran. The Sultan Qaboos, a number of years ago, decided that the Omani navigation tradition was so important that he rebuilt one of the great old ships that used to ply all the way to China, and the Pearl of Muscat, which is one of the largest wooden vessels built in at least this century, where it isn't done. But that ship went on a goodwill mission to Singapore and then to China a few years ago. And it is now the symbol of the international outreach of Oman, which is, matched by the internationalization of the Persian Gulf. So this is one last wish for peace over this area, which has trouble all nearby. And I'm going to read you a poem I found about Oman, which is Moon over Oman, a cream scimitar crescent of Allah's grace waxes the blessings of Islam, yet also the sword of Muhammad for those who do not submit. Peace is an equation from heart to heart. Volatile as love and quick to evaporate in an Arabian sun. And the vapor becomes vapors of hope, a shawl draped across the face of the moon over Oman. And with that, I hope you have a good voyage together. I look forward to getting to know you and hearing where you have been and what you see that I haven't. Thank you very much. My pleasure to sail with you.